Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Nothing says family bonding like a good old-fashioned paternity test, right? Today in the rLounge, we see human relationships at their finest, or should we say, messiest. Up first, the joys of new parenthood, or not. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband, "I told you so," and laughing at me when we got the paternity test results? I, 27 female, have been married to my husband, 28 male, for 2 years, and gave birth to our daughter 5 weeks ago. I'll try to keep this short so I don't waste your time with any irrelevant details. What happened was that our daughter came out with blonde hair and pale blue eyes, while my husband and I have brown hair and brown eyes. My husband freaked out at this and refused to listen to my explanation that sometimes babies are born with lighter hair and eyes that get darker over time. He demanded a paternity test and threatened to divorce me if I didn't comply. So I did. After my daughter and I got home from the hospital, my husband went to stay at his parents' house for the first 3 weeks to get some space from me while I recovered, and he told him what was happening. My mother-in-law called and informed me that if the paternity test revealed that the child wasn't his, she would do anything within her power to make sure that I was taken to the cleaners during the divorce. I had my sister to lean on and help me take care of the baby during this. We got the results back yesterday and my husband came home to view them with me. I was on the couch in the living room, so he sat next to me and we started to read the results. They showed that he was the father, and my husband had this shocked, kind of mortified look on his face with his eyes wide as he stared at it. I couldn't help but say, "I told you so," and started laughing at the way he looked. My husband snapped out of his shock and got mad at me for laughing at him. We argued for a bit, which was mainly him yelling at me, before my sister came downstairs and my husband shut up. After that, my husband went back to his parents' house to clear his head, and 2-3 hours later, my mother-in-law called to scold me about laughing in my husband's face, because apparently it was kicking him while he was down. She's also left a couple nasty texts essentially saying the same thing this morning. I don't think I'm an a-hole, but I'd like an outsider's perspective on this. Edit. I didn't realize I put me instead of him. Sorry, I have a headache. Edit. Since someone asked in the comments but I can't find it anymore, I have zero history of cheating. The OP was voted not the a-hole on the comments provided. Here are some of those comments. Not the a-hole. I'm curious though why you would stay with someone who is that clueless about genetics and who has a clearly toxic mother. The OP replies, I did not realize he would refuse to listen to basic facts about biology when I married him. Here's another comment from the community. So he was down by finding out that he was mistaken and you didn't actually get pregnant with someone else's child? Tough luck, fella. He owes you a massive apology, or 3. Sorry about your husband and in-laws. Someone else says, this is insane. He abandoned you postpartum and forced you to take care of a newborn by yourself while healing. My husband and I also have a baby that looks nothing like either of us. She came out with strawberry blonde hair and blue eyes while we both have brown hair and brown eyes. We both just said, wow, genetics are crazy, and moved on. I'm so sorry for what you're going through while being freshly postpartum with a newborn. Well, isn't that just the cherry on top of your already delightful postpartum Sunday? Nothing like a dash of disbelief, a sprinkle of distrust, and a hefty dollop of in-law interference to really spice up the new parent experience, right? And let's not forget the joy of being scolded by the mother-in-law for indulging in a bit of well-deserved "I told you so" humor. Clearly, you're living the dream. They were both totally out of line, treating you like that, OP. You wouldn't have won with her no matter what happened. She just has it out for you. Update, 2 months later. I'll start this post by saying thank you for all the advice and support I was given. You all have given me the firm kick in the butt to divorce my ex. Also, sorry for leaving you in the lurch for the past 2 months. Alright, here's the update. After making my post, I decided to search for divorce lawyers in my area with my sister. It took a while, but I managed to find and meet with one who was willing to do virtual consultations. During this, my ex was not contacting me at all, but I did reach out to see if he was okay. Eventually, once he actually got served, my ex came back to our house and tried pleading with me not to go through with the divorce. He said he loved me more than anyone, and that we could go to couples therapy. During this, my ex slipped up and admitted to cheating on me when he first left me. He said that he got caught up with his coworker when trying to explain his week-long absence. At first, I didn't realize who he was talking about because he referred to her by a nickname. Think Viv over Vivian. But my brain kicked back into gear and asked if that getting caught up with her was code for that he effed her. My ex stumbled over his words and he tried to dodge the question, but he seemed to realize that I wasn't going to let up on this pretty quickly. He admitted to going to her for emotional support, before our baby was born since he was nervous about being a dad, and eventually effing her during the time he left. So you guys were right about him cheating. I had heard enough at that point and told my ex point blank we were going to divorce. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, and that I wanted 50-50 custody. We'd only speak about the divorce, custody arrangements, and our daughter herself after this. My ex just nodded to what I was saying and asked if he could see our daughter. I was a bit hesitant, but said yes, and called my sister to have her bring our daughter down to the living room. My ex held our daughter and talked to the baby for a bit before leaving. My sister asked me if I was alright after he was gone, and I told her I was okay. My mother-in-law did try to harass me over the phone about me divorcing my ex, but by then I had already blocked her, so she went to my sister instead. I guess my mother-in-law was never told that I owned the house my ex and I previously shared, since she texted my sister, saying that I was going to be out on the streets. Well, my mother-in-law most certainly knows that now, since my ex is now living with her and moved out. My ex has seen our daughter a few times. Those visits were awkward to say the least, but I managed. Hopefully, I won't have to give you guys any more updates about this. Now let's get a couple comments from the community. First up, I wonder if her being willing to make a child homeless plays any role, or is OP just stuck? The OP replies, I think she assumed that if I got kicked out, my daughter would be stuck with my ex, rather than me taking my daughter with me and staying at my parents' house. Another person chimes in, so he wrongly accused you of cheating, then turns around and cheats on you. Thank goodness you're divorcing him and leaving him and his mother behind. Best of luck to you and your daughter. The next person says, right of first refusal or assuring priority of parental care. This refers to situations where a parent is unable to meet any obligation for the care of the child during their scheduled time. They must then contact the other parent to offer them to have the child before they use another family member or babysitter over the other parent. So if your ex has the baby but just drops her off at his mother's house and takes off, you can take your child back home with you, or eventually get more custody time if he is not using his custody time to be with his child. The next person says, I don't think 50-50 custody is the right thing here. He has no parental instincts for his child at all, even denying he was the father. Up to this point, it sounds like he hasn't even fed her or changed a diaper. You shouldn't turn her over to him half the time. He'll probably just hand her off to the mother-in-law to raise. You should be going for full custody based on him abandoning you and your daughter after the birth, as well as refusing to believe he was the father. He should pay child support and not corrupt his daughter further. The next person says, as mean as this will sound, going for 50-50 is the perfect play. She's going to offer it, at which point this utter soggy ham sandwich of a man will wilt and run away. He will be the one to turn it down. So we'll get all this documented, and her lawyers will have a grand old laugh about how he was so neatly screwed himself over. One more person chimes in. This is what my mom did. She refused to fight for us 3 kids in the divorce because she knew if she said she wanted custody, Dad would fight it out of spite. But if she just let it happen, she would get us. She was right. She got full custody. Dad got visitation rights, and then we saw him once or twice a year for the next 10 years because he's a lazy, self-interested man. So your ex had a moment of clarity, huh? Finally admitted to his extracurricular activities after accusing you of cheating. Classic move. And let's not forget the heartfelt plea of reconciliation, complete with a sprinkle of, I love you more than anyone, and a dash of, let's try couples therapy. A for effort, buddy, but I think that ship has sailed. Straight into a sea of divorce papers. But hey, at least he got some quality father-daughter time in before he packed his bags and moved in with his biggest fan club president, aka your mother-in-law. Talk about a match made in hell. And let's not overlook the subtle hints from the universe that maybe, just maybe, full custody might be the way to go. After all, who needs a deadweight co-parent when you can navigate the treacherous waters of parenthood solo? What do you make of this? Next up, is it really all about the bride? I was asked not to wear a certain color to a wedding. I figured this also fits here and wanted to get some more opinions on if I'm an a-hole. My oldest sister, Elaine, 31 female, is getting married in October 2022 to her fiancé of 4 years, Stephen, 35 male. I, 25 female, am the youngest of 4 sisters, although from my perspective we have always been close growing up. Well, in May, Elaine asked our second sister, Gabriella, 29 female, to be her maid of honor, which is understandable because they have always been super close growing up. Me and my third sister, Celia, 26 female, expected to be bridesmaids too. However, Elaine decided to include Stephen's daughters, Tiffany, 12 female, and Sasha, 8 female, in the bridal party instead, which we were obviously a little upset about, but understood that it was our sister's special day. Well, anyway, In July, I was visiting our mom while Elaine and Gabriella were also visiting. I overheard them planning the wedding and decided to ask about the wedding color since I was and am still super excited for my sister to get married. Elaine told me that she was thinking of something bespoke and non-traditional for her wedding dress, which I thought was cool and totally her style. Though I still assumed the color of the dress would be white, but had no way of checking since I wasn't a bridesmaid, and any texts I sent to Gabriella were ignored because it's supposed to be a surprise. In August, I picked out a yellow dress online as I thought it was a safe bet color-wise. Before I brought the dress, I sent a picture to Gabriella, who once again left me on red. I asked Celia if she thought the dress was okay, and she agreed that since it's not floor length, it should be okay to wear to Elaine's wedding. The dress is a light yellow, knee-length, plain asymmetrical dress, and it was finally delivered last week. After it was delivered, I sent pictures to everyone, and then Elaine freaked out at me. She called me 7 times while I was at work. When I finally picked up, she yelled at me about how I was an awful sister and was stealing my new niece's spotlight after her wedding. Apparently, Tiffany and Sasha were supposed to be the only ones wearing yellow because Elaine wanted them to feel special. I told Elaine that if I ordered another dress, it wouldn't arrive on time, to which she told me to go to a bridal store and buy a different dress. I told her that I had already spent $50 on a new dress for her wedding and that I wasn't going to spend another $200 on a fancy bridal dress store. Elaine called me selfish and told me not to bother attending her wedding if I didn't change my dress last minute. Everyone in our family is saying I'm an a-hole for wanting to take away attention from 2 little girls on their dad's wedding day and that I should just suck it up for my sister. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. As so many kind people have pointed out, yes, I could go to Goodwill and find another dress. I have already suggested this to Elaine, but she rejected the idea because this is my wedding, not a Walmart. I also offered to wear an old homecoming dress, which is pink. This also wasn't good enough for Elaine because Gabriella is wearing pink and Elaine didn't want me to be dressed exactly like Gabriella, even though Celia is also wearing a similar pink dress. I could go to Goodwill in my spare time, but Elaine has said that she wants to pick out the dress so I don't ruin her wedding. As for dyeing the yellow dress, I don't want to spend $50 on fabric dye only for it to go wrong and then be down $100 with no dress to wear to my sister's wedding, which is in early October. The dress I planned on wearing. Let's check in with the community for a quick relevant comment. Not the a-hole. She had an opportunity to tell you not to wear it before you bought it. Your mistake was sending a picture after. What's she going to do when another random guest happens to wear yellow? The OP replies, the crazy thing is our mom bought a floor-length white dress and Elaine was fine with it. Heaven forbid anyone else in the bridal party dares to don a hue that might slightly resemble sunshine, because clearly the spotlight must remain firmly fixed on Steven's little princesses, Tiffany and Sasha. After all, it's their day too, right? Wrong. Who needs a white knight when you can be the yellow-clad rebel, ready to shake up the status quo? And the comments are right. She had a chance to tell you not to buy the dress. And yeah, maybe the message might have gotten lost in the whole stress of planning a wedding, but with you being her sister, you'd think she'd keep you in the know of the wedding details. It's hard to believe your sister is willing to put something like this in between the two of you since you've been so close growing up. Update. Elaine's wedding was this past Tuesday, and as many people suggested, I wore my old homecoming dress, which was a pink knee-length dress. In the days leading up to the wedding, my mom and Elaine called me nonstop to tell me that if I wore a yellow dress, I would not be allowed into the wedding venue, and that Elaine should be the one to pick my dress from a bridal shop. As many people suggested, I told Elaine that if she wanted to pick my dress, she could pay for it. Elaine became extremely annoyed with me for my response, and it was disrespectful to her personally and as a bride, and that I should be more understanding about how expensive weddings are. I reminded her that she was the one who wanted a large black tie wedding and that no one forced her to be so controlling over colors and outfits. Elaine then proceeded to block me via text, but clearly told our family what I said because I continued to receive texts from our mom and Gabriella, who told me I was rude and that wedding planning is stressful and I should be more accommodating. I told my mother and Gabriella that if Elaine wanted to be so controlling about my dress that she could pay for it, and I would wear my old homecoming dress. That shut both my mom and Gabriella up, and I didn't hear anything else about the topic of dresses from them until the morning of Elaine's wedding. On the day of Elaine's wedding, I waited for 10 minutes while my mother refused to send me the directions to the wedding venue because she didn't know how. Eventually, I gave up on my mom and asked Celia to send the directions instead because clearly our mom wanted me to miss the wedding. At this point, I was considering not attending the wedding at all, but I figured if I attended that, my family couldn't say that I lacked effort or was being petty towards my sister. When I arrived at the wedding venue, most of the guests were already there. As I said, Elaine planned to have 100 people at her wedding, and since she hadn't specified that no one should wear yellow, there were at least 10 people present dressed in yellow, one of whom was Steven's mother. Well, anyway, the real drama started when the rest of our extended family arrived at the wedding. My mother's brother began talking to me and saying that he was glad I managed to get a new dress and that yellow wasn't my color anyway. So I asked him if he thought it was appropriate for my sister, my mother, to wear white to her own daughter's wedding, which he didn't reply. I got a lot of dirty looks from my other family members and mean comments about how cheap I was and how much audacity I had to ask the bride to pay for my dress. At that point, I figured I could suck it up for a few more hours just to see Elaine get married, and then I could drop off the wedding gift at the reception. Well, at the wedding reception, Elaine came up to me and pulled me aside. She told me that since she didn't think I would come to the wedding, that she had canceled my meal and that I owed her $110 if I wanted to eat at her wedding, since it cost her $110 per head to book. I asked her why she had anticipated her own sister not attending her wedding, and she made out like it was my fault. I told her that I didn't have to deal with this, and if this was how she wanted to be, that she could consider herself no longer my sister. I left Elaine's wedding immediately and took my gift with me, just a bottle of wine and a card. My family have texted me nonstop about how petty and jealous I am of Elaine, etc., etc. So Reddit was right. My sister was trying to exclude me from her wedding. Thanks for that. I will now be going no contact with Elaine and my mother for their favorism. Let's check with the community for a few comments and additional info. The first person asks, have they treated you like this before? How were y'all's relationship growing up? There must have been signs prior to this wedding that they didn't think highly of you and tried to exclude you of events. Either way, good riddance. Keep the no contact and don't even invite them to your future wedding. The OP replied, I honestly thought we were close growing up. Like, sure, my older sisters would do stuff on their own, but I figured that was just because they wanted time to themselves, not because they were purposely trying to exclude me from their lives. The next person says, holy crap, I actually can't believe the audacity of your mom, Elaine, and the other family members. Did your mom actually wear white to Elaine's wedding though? The OP replies, yes, our mom wore white to Elaine's wedding, but this wasn't a problem because she apparently had 2 wedding dresses. According to Celia, however, I left without seeing Elaine's second dress. On FOP is the family scapegoat. To answer your question, growing up, family members would tell our parents that Elaine was the prettiest and that she would find a successful husband and have a bright future because of how pretty she was. She used to do child pageants. The OP on her relationship with her sisters. Well, Celia thinks I'm right to cut contact with Elaine after the way she spoke to me at the wedding and the way she treated me over the whole yellow dress issue. Gabriella hasn't tried to reach out, so I have no idea how she feels. Who knew that choosing a dress color could turn into a full-blown family feud? This is a twisted version of say yes to the dress, where saying the wrong thing earns you one-way ticket to exile. How did this even happen? What has honestly gotten into your sister? It seems very out of character if you've all been so close prior to this. But hey, at least you managed to stir the pot and expose the true colors of your dear sister and mother. White dresses, canceled meals, and relentless texting. Sounds more like a dysfunctional family reunion than a wedding celebration. May your future be free of toxic family dynamics and petty dress codes. Take that bottle of wine and cheers to cutting ties and reclaiming your sanity. What would you do? Thanks again for joining us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell before you leave. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topic, so feel free to leave a comment. See you next time in the rLounge.